Hello good people, and welcome to another edition of Excel for Work, our virtual training in Microsoft Excel to help you work smart and save time on routine office tasks at the office. This is our third topic in the series, and today we are looking at how to create conditional totals in Microsoft Excel, a build on from our previous edition. So straight to our learning objectives. At the end of this topic, you should master how to use filter icons to create conditional totals. You also learn how to use SUMIF, COUNTIF, AVERAGEIF to create conditional totals based on a criteria. Then we'll move on to learn how to use SUMIFs, COUNTIFs, and AVERAGEIFs to create conditional totals based on multiple criteria. So we go to our example data, and here I have this sales data. So sales data has dates, salesperson, customer, products, selling price, and quantity. Of course, from here we want to use this data to answer the following questions. But before we proceed, a recap from our previous edition that normally when we keep data in a group or a collection of cells, we call it a range. This is not normally useful, especially for managing the data and creating calculations. So Excel has this dedicated object called a table. So we can convert this range into a table. To convert into a table, you need to make sure your headers are well placed without any unrelated data attached to it. So here I can insert a row, okay, and then clear. Then if my headers starts my content here, I can now stand in any cell and then press Ctrl T to insert a table. Okay, so this is an Excel table. We know we are in a table when we see the table design pop up. If I step out, I don't have the table design. Okay, so in this table design, we normally name the table to make it easier to work with. So a name that relates to the content. So here I can name this sales. So it means that if I come here and I do any calculation and I call equal to sales, this whole table is selected. I can now call any column from this table and then do my calculations. Okay, I also have access to my total rows, which we are going to use to make it easier for our calculations. So if you start off in Excel, there are some basic calculations like sum, average, count, min, max that you use to aggregate data. But you have situations where you have to do it based on one product or two criteria. So in this example, where we are supposed to calculate total sales for airport, it means that we need to stand in the column that contains the products, which includes airport, filter out airport, and go to another column that contains the numbers to sum. So these three steps can help us get the total sales of airports. So let's proceed and calculate our revenue, since we don't have revenue in this current table. So I have date, salesperson, customer, product, selling price, and quantity. So with tables, if I add a new column, so I'll stand here and then enter. So it adds this new column as part of the table. So to calculate revenue, I'll start off with the first row, select selling price, and multiply it by quantity. So I just get a fill down and the revenue is calculated. Okay, so let me just format this properly. And while we are here, let's also calculate our commission. So I have my commission here. So to calculate my commission, I'll multiply revenue, multiply this by commission rate, which is 2%. To avoid this going down as I copy, I'll lock this absolutely using F4. Okay, so F4 will put a dollar on the column and row. So this is my commission, and with this data set we can now proceed and then do our calculations. Now you have filter icons here. So filter icons help us filter the content of each column. In some cases they are missing. You you can always activate them using Ctrl+Shift+L. Ctrl+Shift+L is a toggle, so the same keys bring it on and turn it off. You can also go to data, okay, and then turn it on using this filter icon here. So if question is asked, what is the total sales of airport, and you don't want to use a formula to calculate this, the first step is to identify the column that contains airport. So in this case, the column is the product column. That column is called the range or the criteria range. Okay, you note this for our calculations when we come to formulas. So this is our range or criteria range. Then I will filter out airport. So with this, I can select the filter icon, okay, and type in airport here, or uncheck all and select airport, okay, and then I will get the airport filtered out. So in this second step, I have filtered out the criteria. So first, the criteria range or range, second, the criteria, which is airport. Then we go on to the next stage where we look for our sum range. So because we want to sum, we go to the column that contains our numbers for aggregation. In this case, this is revenue. When you are working with a table, the table has this dedicated feature called total row. So if you activate the total row, at the bottom of your table, it adds this temporal row where in each cell you have a drop down for aggregation. Okay, so if I stand in this total row, you see that I have the opportunity to stand in my revenue column, use the drop down, and then I can do any aggregation here. Okay, so here let me sum, and then I get 642359. You can note this figure. We use a formula to generate the same thing without disturbing the table. So here we use filter icons on our criteria range. We filtered out our criteria. Then on our sum range, which is the column that contains our numbers, we use our total row to sum. Now let's go to our formula. So I want to clear the filter for my table. I can do this using Ctrl+Shift+L. Okay, so it clears the filter, or I could go to data and then deactivate this filter icon button. Either way, I get my full table back. So if we were to use a formula to calculate this, the function we are going to use is SUMIF. Okay, so SUMIF helps us create conditional totals based on a criteria. So to do this, I'm going to start off equal to SUMIF. Okay, the requirements are range, which I said is the column that contains our criteria. In some cases, you can see it as criteria range. Okay, so because we have a table, we can select the column directly using the name of the table, which is sales. So the whole table is selected. I'll bring a square bracket, and then I have a list of all the components of the table. So I'll type in products, select it using the tab key, and then close with a square bracket. So when I do this, I have my range or criteria range selected. Then I'll bring a comma and then move on to provide my criteria. So my criteria is airport, and here you use airport the same way it has been spelled. It is not case sensitive, but you have to spell it correctly. So if you are putting text in a formula, you need to precede with a double quote, okay, and then you type in the criteria, which is airport, and then you close with a double quote, right? So this is airport, and then I'll bring my comma, and my sum range, the column that contains the numbers I'm summing, is in revenue. Another way you can highlight the column if you are using a table is when you hover your mouse on the header, you see this down black arrow. When you click on it, it selects the content and then gives you the same structured name that we had, sales and revenue. So whether you type or you use this method, you can still have access to the column. Okay, so this is our criteria range or range. This is our criteria, and then this is our sum range. The same method we use with the filter icon gives us the answer that we're looking for. So it will be good to have both skills so that you can calculate this answer with a table or with formulas. So using the same method, let's go on and see how we can calculate on average how much sales we made to CompuGhana. The main operation we are doing here is to average. Okay, so if we are averaging, we need to identify first our range. Our criteria is CompuGhana. So if you look in the table, CompuGhana sits under customers. So customers is our criteria range. So customers is our criteria range. So when I come here, another way I can filter out CompuGhana is to select one instance of CompuGhana, right click, and then use this filter icon. So filter by selected sales value is another way I can do this without using the filter icons. Okay, so we have filtered out our criteria from our criteria range, and then when we come down here, our total row is still active. Okay, we want to see the average sales. So when I come here, I will switch to average, and then I have 2321. Let's go and do this with a formula. So Ctrl+Shift+L, and I'll come here, use AVERAGEIF. So AVERAGEIF. Okay, so sales, open square brackets, and this time round we are looking for customer. So our CompuGhana is coming from sales customer. I'll bring a comma, okay, and then I'll bring a double quote and then type in CompuGhana. It has a space, so we'll put in a space and then we'll close our double quote. I'll bring a comma, and then our average range in this case, okay, is going to be sales revenue. Okay, so you realize that with AVERAGEIF and SUMIF, the syntax is the same. The only thing that changes is the function. Okay, so here I get 2321, the same answer that we got. So we continue with our third question. How many times did Done Deals Limited purchase from the store? So here, Done Deals is our criteria, okay, and Done Deals sits in the customer column, which is our criteria range. But the operation we are doing is to count. So because we are doing head count on Done Deals, we do not need any extra column for aggregation. So you realize that in COUNTIF, okay, you have only two requirements. So equal to COUNTIF, okay, and our range is sales, open square bracket, okay, and then we go to customer. Okay, so you see that customer is selected here, and then my criteria, I'll bring a comma and then double quote and then type in Done Deals. Okay, so these are the two requirements when we are counting. Okay, so you realize that I type in Done Deals, but if I don't add a limited, it's not going to give me the correct results. So this is Done Deals Limited as you see it over there. Okay, so we have 83. Let's quickly confirm it using our filter icons method. So Ctrl+Shift+L to activate this, or we can come right click Done Deals, filter on the selected value, okay, and we are doing a head count, and I come into the total row, I can just count, and then I have 83. So Ctrl+Shift+L to get back. Now we want to know what was the least amount of sales recorded by walk-in clients. So again, we would analyze this by identifying our criteria. So our criteria is walk-in clients. The criteria range, okay, is customer because walk-in client sits under customer. And then the operation we are doing here is to find the least amount. So when we come to the revenue section, which represents our aggregation range, this time around we are finding the min. We are looking for the least amount after we filtered out walk-in customers. Okay, so in this case we are going to use another function called min-ifs. Okay, so min-ifs. So the min range in this case is the column where our numbers are. Okay, so min range is similar to sum range, average range that we used, but you realize that in the case of min ifs, we start with min range where the numbers are. Okay, so I'm going to call the name of the table, bring my square bracket, then call revenue. Okay, then I'll bring a comma. So my criteria range is going to be customers, so I'll call sales, which is the table, and then put in the customers column, and against customers I will put in walk in, so walk in double quote. Okay, and then I'll close my bracket. So if I had other criteria, I could continue like that, because min ifs takes multiple criteria. Okay, so I have 79.99, 79.99. Let's quickly prove this. So if I come here, walk in customers is here, that's my criteria. So I'll filter. Okay, and then I'll go to my revenue column, which is my min range. Now instead of averaging, I'm looking for min. I have 79.99 over here. So that's how easy it is to be creating conditional totals. Now let's look at this next example. How many transactions were done after 12 September 2019? And here our lesson is to learn how to create the conditional calculation based on the date. So after 12 September 2019 means that if I'm filtering using my filter icons, my range or my criteria range is on date. Now when you're using Excel tables and you use the filter icons, based on the content of the column, you will get a custom filter. So in this case, we have a date filter. So if my goal is to find how many transactions were made after 12 September 2019, there are options here. Okay, so I'll just put in after. Okay, so when I come in, there is this dialog box. Okay, and I'm supposed to put in the date. The thing with dates is anytime you are entering dates, please check your Windows setting. Okay, so if it's set to day, month, year, you use the same method to enter your dates. If it's month, day, year, you use the same method. So in my case, 12 September is set to month, day, year, so it's going to be 9/12/2019. Okay, and then I'll click OK. So it filters. Okay, so how many sales did we make? Of course I have the count here, so but just to confirm, I can stand in this date column and also count as well, which is 371. So Control Shift L, and then I'll come and see if this 371 can be done with a formula. So if you want to do this with a formula, the function is COUNTIF. Okay, so COUNTIF, and our range or criteria range is sales. Okay, and I'll call the date column. Okay, so this is my criteria range. And what is my criteria? My criteria actually is date after 12 September 2019. I'm going to start with a double quote, alright, but I can include the operator greater than. Okay, so anytime you are bringing in text or value with an operator, you would have to use the double quote. So the same method, we proceed with our date, which is 9/12/2019, and then close our double quote, and then I'll close off my formula. So we still get the 371. Now I must say that for all these calculations that we did, we hard coded the criteria. So what I mean by hard code is that we typed the criteria in. Okay, you have a situation where you can also reference a cell that contains the word. It's allowed. It even makes it more dynamic. So as an example, if I had airport here somewhere, okay, so instead of typing this in, I can select K16, which contains airport. Okay, and then I have the same thing. Of course, the advantage here is that I can change the criteria to any other product. Okay, so if I do MacBook here. Okay, it updates. Okay, so whether you hard code or you reference a cell, it works the same way. Now with dates, if I had the date outside, so as an example, if I had 9/12/2019 here, okay, and I wanted to reference this, okay, so what I would do is I will come in, so let me cut this somewhere that will make it visible. Okay, so I'll select my criteria range and then put in my operator, so double quotes, greater than, close double quotes. Okay, and to join it with that cell, I'll bring an ampersand, okay, the and sign, okay, and then select this. So that's another way if you want to select a date. Okay, when I close this, I get the same answer. So whether you input or you reference, the same method. Now let's move to situations where we have multiple criteria. So the example here is, what is the total commission paid to employees who sold MacBooks to Freddy's Corner? Okay, so if you look at this question, we are supposed to calculate the total commission first based on MacBooks, and then second, sales to Freddy's Corner. So we have two criteria in here. If we're doing this with a filter icon, I could go activate my filter icon, okay, and then I'll take each column, filter out the criteria, and then I'll go ahead and sum. Okay, so if I'm looking for MacBooks, I'll look for MacBooks in product. So product is my criteria range. I'll filter out MacBooks, so filter based on this value, okay, and then go in and look for Freddy's Corner also in customers. So here I'll filter based on Freddy's Corner. So I've done a double. Okay, so this criteria range and this criteria range and this criteria. Okay, and when I'm done, I come to my sum range. So after this, I'll come to my commission and then confirm my aggregation here, which is a sum. So this is the total commission I paid based on MacBook and Freddy's Corner. How do we do this with the formula? So to do this with the formula, we are going to use SUMIFs. Okay, so just like SUMIF, this one has an S. Okay, so SUMIF, in some cases SUMIFs. Okay, so this helps us manage multiple criteria, MacBook and Freddy's Corner. But the difference between SUMIFs and SUMIF is that in SUMIFs we start with the sum range, okay, allowing us to pair the criteria range with this criteria. Okay, you remember in SUMIF the sum range was the last requirement, so take note of this. Okay, in some cases you can use SUMIFs to do the job of SUMIF if it makes it easier, but just take note that SUMIF starts with a sum range, and we learned that the sum range is the column that contains our values, right? So I'll call sales and then commission, and I close off this. Okay, so now it doesn't matter the order, you can start off with any criteria range. The two criteria we are using here is MacBook and Freddy's Corner. So I'll bring my comma and then call sales and then call the criteria range for MacBooks, okay, which is product. So from product I am assigning MacBook. Okay, so MacBook. So this is one set, criteria range, criteria. Okay, then I'll bring my comma and then proceed to the second set, which is sales. Okay, and this time round to customer, and I'll bring my comma and put in Freddy's Corner, and then I'll close my bracket. So as I said, the order doesn't matter. I have my sum range, I have my set, products gives me MacBook, sales customer gives me Freddy's Corner. Okay, so when I do this, I get the 483.20. which is what we got earlier. So on to our next question. How much of Owen Roberts' commission was not from iPad sales? Let's break this down. So two criteria here, Owen Roberts, okay, which comes from the salesperson's column, and then iPad sales, which comes from the product. But the key word here is not. Okay, so not. Let's first go to the table and see how we can answer this. How much of Owen Roberts' commission was not from iPad sales? So when I come here, we need to filter out. So I'll stand in salespersons, Control-Shift-L. Okay, come here and then uncheck or type in Owen, enter. So that filters out Owen. So after Owen is filtered out, I need to come to the products, okay, and uncheck iPad. So we are interested in not iPad. Okay, so if I do this, it means iPad sales are off, and then I come and check what total commission we have here. So if I sum this, I have 367.91. Okay, so note this and let's see if we can prove this with a formula. So if I come in here, we are going to use SUMIFs, okay, and we start off with a commission column because that is the column that contains our numbers. So sales, commission, close square brackets. Then we proceed with our criteria range and criteria, two sets. Okay, so first one is going to be salesperson. So I call salesperson. What I'm giving here is Owen Roberts. So Owen, comma, Roberts. And then I'll close my square bracket. Okay, so that completes one set. Then I'll bring my comma, and then I'll call the sales table again, and then bring in products. Okay, so from here, I'm not bringing iPad sales, but I'm bringing not iPad sales. So that will be a double quote, not. So not is the greater than, less than sign together in this shape. So first you do the less than, and then you do the greater than sign against each other, and then you put the word against it, so iPad, right? And then you close your double quote. Okay, so this is to take care of not iPad. Then I'll close my final bracket, and then I have the 367 that we had earlier. So we move on to our next question. How many times were 5 or more airports sold to walk-in clients? So if I was breaking this down, I'm interested in airports, okay, 2 walk-in clients, and sales where we registered more than 5. So these are our 3 criteria points. Okay, so let's do that. How many times means we are counting. So I'll first go to the table, okay, Control-Shift-L. So when I come to the quantity, as I said, because it contains numbers, I have a special numbers filter here. Okay, so I can do greater than 5. Okay, so when you do greater than 5, it filters out all the numbers that are greater than 5. Okay, then I'll come in here and then look for airports. So airports is under product. So I will come to airport, filter out airport. And then the last thing I'm going to do is to filter out walk-in clients. Okay, so 3. And how many do we have? I'll come take any of these. Okay, assuming all cells are filled, and then I'll count. So I have 19. Okay, so walk-in airport greater than 5. That's 3 criteria. So Control-Shift-L to clear my filter, and then let's prove this with our formula. Okay, so here we are going to use COUNTIFs. So COUNTIFs requires a criteria range and a criteria in 3 sets. Okay, so you can start off with any. So I'll call sales, and then we'll bring in product. So products, against product is going to be AirPod. Okay, so that completes one set, and then I'll go and call sales again, and then look for customer. So this is my second criteria range, and then here I'm going to put in walk-in. Okay, so this is my second set, and then finally I'll call sales and then call quantity, and then again sales quantity I'm going to put in double quote greater than 5, and I close my double quotes. Okay, so product AirPod, customer walk-in, sales quantity greater than 5, 3. So I have 19. Okay, now the last example deals with date intervals. So in this situation, we want to know the number of transactions that were done between 1st March 2019 and 12 September 2020. If you don't want to do this with a formula, let's learn how you can do this with filter icons. So I'll come here, Ctrl+Shift+L to activate my filter icons. Every action is going to be on dates, so you're allowed to reference one column multiple times. Okay, so in the first reference we'll have our start date, and then in the second reference we'll have our end date. Okay, so if I'm using dates and I have a filter icon here and I go into my date column, I have date filters. Okay, so I have these options that would help me get intervals between two dates. Okay, so here the dates, we have 1st March 2019 and then 12 September 2020. Those are two dates. So I'll come up, okay, date filter, and I'll choose between. Okay, so 1st March 2019, okay, is my start point, and then 12 September 2020 is my end point. Okay, so when I click OK, I have the dates sorted out. Okay, and I can now come in and then just do a simple count using my total row. Okay, so I have 447. Now let's see if we can prove this using our formulas. So if you come back and we want to use formulas to prove this, we are going to use COUNTIFs. Okay, so COUNTIFs allow us to pair multiple criteria range with their respective criteria, and in this case both criteria will come from the date column. So sales, open square bracket, dates, close square bracket, right? And I'll bring my comma and start with a double quote. So over here I'll put in a greater than sign for my minimum date. So my start date is March 1st, so 3/1 in my case because I have the month day setting. Okay, 2019. That completes the first point. Okay, and then I'll repeat the sales date column. Okay, comma, and then double quotes. My end point is going to be less than 9/12, okay, /2020, and then I'll close my double quote. Okay, so if you have any calculation that involves a date interval, you could use this. Okay, so now the interpretation of between in this case means greater than or equal to. Okay, so I'm including the start and end dates, and I can do that by adding an equal to. So greater than equal to this, less than equal to that. Okay, so you can take notes, and then I have my 447. So we've gone through about 10 questions, and the goal was to help you understand how you can create conditional totals using filter icons, tables, total rows, or if you are using formulas to do this, how to use SUMIF, COUNTIF, AVERAGEIF, MINIFs, MAXIFs, okay, to do these, and then using multiple criteria where you use SUMIFs, COUNTIFs, AVERAGEIFs. Okay, the goal is to make it easier for you to get these totals without manually filtering. So the workbook will be made available, and it will be good if you could download and practice along. Hope to see you in a subsequent edition. Thanks for joining us. If this video was helpful and you would like to receive more of these videos directly on your WhatsApp, you can send ad to this WhatsApp number. We'll add you to our broadcast list so you receive our videos directly. You can also visit our YouTube channel, Finance Skills Hub. All our old videos are here. Please subscribe for notification of new videos, or connect with us on any of these social media handles. Thank you so much for watching.